I'm Dr. Lori. This is What's It Worth, and we've got some interesting things for this show. Hi, Jed.
Hey, Lori.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Dr. Lori to you.
Oh, that's right. Excuse me.
No, I'm kidding, honey. So tell me, where are you from?
Lancaster.
Oh, okay. And you brought this all the way from Lancaster?
All the way from
here into
5 minutes away.
Here into the studio,
Yes,
right?
indeed.
Tell me a little bit about your mid-century modern chair.
Sure. So
How'd you get it?
It came from my parents. We have two of them.
You do? Same
yes.
color?
Identical.
Ooh, matching, yay.
Yes. So the story is in 1956, when my dad and mom came back from Germany, where they were while he was in the service, he started a career as a chemical engineer, what we would call today a chemist, as they called it then. And the place where he started working had the entire office done in these.
Okay.
This was their office furniture, these chairs, tables that went with it.
Right.
A few years later, they renovated the whole place.
Oh!
And they made the chairs available for employees to take if they wanted them.
Oh, that's nice.
So he took two chairs, and they were in my parents' house in the 70s as I was growing up. You know, they were just part of the furniture.
Part of the furniture where in your parents' house? Was it in the den, in the living room, in an office, in a bedroom? Where?
In the early days, it was in a living room. Because it was the 70s, at one point we remodeled the basement into a rec room, and then they were down there.
We all had that with the shag rug.
Yep. We had paneling, right?
Paneling? Yeah, you
Yep.
know, okay.
And then
And we're both born like, 1995, so forget that. We didn't know any of that.
This is all what we hear.
Yeah, that's right, that's right.
And then in the 90s, when I was in my first apartments after college, they gave these chairs to me.
Oh, hey,
And
you
then
got both of them?
I did.
Do you have siblings?
Nope, just me.
Oh, just you. Okay,
Yep.
great. Okay.
Now
Well,
they're
only children get all the benefits and all the burden. So you get the two chairs, but then, you have to do all the work for them too. Okay.
That's right.
Okay, so then
now
they're in your house.
They're in my house, and my wife and I have them in the living room. We sit on them daily. They're,
Great.
again, part of our lives.
They're a part of your lives.
So I've always heard these referred to as Eames chairs.
Yes, because they are, of course, by the designer, Charles and Ray Eames,
okay.
right, yeah. So basically, the designers, the Eames. So basically what you're looking at here, and then the manufacturer was Herman Miller.
Right.
Okay, they made a lot of office furniture and a lot of furniture in general. And then the distributor, of course, was Knoll International, head up by Florence Knoll. And many of these folks actually came out of the Cranbrook Academy in Michigan. And they were the quintessential designers, Bertoia and Eames and such, of course, the mid-century modern movement. That's what you're looking at. But yes, you're absolutely right, Jed. This is an Eames chair and considered an Eames chair. And then Herman Miller is the manufacturer, and then it would have been distributed typically in Pennsylvania and much of the East Coast by Knoll International. These particular chairs were the idea of ergonomically correct, comfortable furniture. Furniture that relates to the curves of the body.
Right.
So this is first introduced, of course, by a man named Harry Bertoia, who wants to deal with ergonomics of the body, of how you sit and how you feel comfortable and where your arms are going to actually lay, that kind of thing. And also new age materials, which is what you have here.
That's right.
So you have, of course, the fiberglass produced piece. So materials are very important. This particular chair also has here, of course, the legs and of course the new materials. And what you have that's wonderful about it is actually the color. The color is sometimes considered wheat, right?
Okay,
The color of wheat. It's basically an off-white or a beige.
Right.
And this particular color would go with anything.
Sure.
It was oftentimes seen as functional furniture. So you would see these chairs. The armchair, which is what you have, would not typically be in a kitchen. Those would be side chairs.
Right.
These would literally be for offices, for dens, for living rooms, for that kind of thing. So you're still using it in the way it was intended.
Right.
So by the 1950s, these pieces are manufactured by Knoll International. Of course, Florence Knoll, right over in East Greenville, Pennsylvania, not all that far, of course, from where we are today in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And basically, the other thing that you have that's quite important that a lot of people don't have, you might have to help me do this,
absolutely.
is this wonderful label that still is intact. And that label and the construction methods here, where you are seeing the way in which this element is actually constructed using oxyacetylene torches, which are introduced during World War II. You're basically seeing this whole element with the 4 discs attached here to the bottom of the chair, which is, of course, poured fiberglass.
Right.
This right here of the Herman Miller sticker helps you to identify whether or not it is a reproduction. Because in the 1990s, you saw reproductions of these pieces. Now, someone like me would look at it and go, it's not a reproduction. We would know right away from the deterioration, right, over time of this particular chair. Because what's happening? People are smoking. Were there smokers in your family?
Or not.
There were probably smokers in that office.
I'm positive.
And that's what you're basically seeing here. Very, very light smoke residue, but there's typical residue on this, and because, of course, the way in which you start to see that. It is not a dirty chair by any stretch of the imagination. I do not want to say that. But I want you to understand what this color really looked like, which would have been a couple of shades lighter than, of course, what you have here.
So maybe like an eggshell kind of thing almost.
Yeah, I mean, you could start doing ecru and eggshell and off-white, a million colors for what is really beige, right? But that's what you're basically looking for here. Wonderful piece. What do you think it's worth?
I don't have any concrete information. Of a very minimal amount of Googling over the years.
Googling, we're going to Google.
Yeah, which is not the best way to find things out.
Not the best way because, you don't always, you Google an object and you get the object and you see the picture, but you don't know the source. So someone's telling you it's worth $1 million, but you don't know what who that source is. Are they an expert? Do they know? Did they check the market? Do they have any idea?
Right.
And what is their sort of supporting evidence,
Sure.
right, of your Google search and your Google results? Okay.
Right.
So you got a little more information about it, right?
Yep.
And it is typically mid-century modern, which has a big revival about 50 years later in the 1990s, early 2000s. So we're seeing where these spiked maybe about 10 years ago in terms of value.
Right.
And now that, of course, is now starting to decline.
Right.
Because we're seeing, again, the pieces from the later 1970s, avocado green and those bright oranges of the late 90s, late 70s become relatively important. So these pieces are moving back. They've had their heyday, their revival heyday.
Sure.
So any idea if you had to throw a number out?
If I had to throw a number out, I might say $200 a chair.
$200 a chair would be very low.
Oh, wow, great.
Very low. So probably you're looking closer to $1,500 to $2,000 a chair in excellent condition. Yours are in good condition.
Okay.
I'd probably put your chairs just around $1,000 each.
Fantastic.
So not $200,
awesome.
but about $1,000 each. And remember, these particular types of mid-century modern chairs, if you have a pair, keep them together. Keep them in the same type of room where they get the same type of sunlight, the same type of temperature and humidity changes. Don't have them stored or seated near a heating vent or a return, and never near an air conditioner either. I'm Dr. Lori. This is What's It Worth. Thanks, Jed.
Thanks.